system approaching perfection.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast if it means I'm able to further limit
There's a system approaching perfection. There's a system approaching perfection.
The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory.
All right, this meeting is being recorded. That's what Zoom is telling us right now. And this is Danny from the Crypto Show, and we're doing another episode of Meet the Speakers for Anarchapulco. And today I've got the pleasure of talking with Ladar Levison, who I like to refer to as the Howard Rourke of private communications. And it's a long
Thank
story.
you.
I guess, let me see. Yeah, I'll just go over it real quick. So Ladar had LavaBit, and that was what Edward Snowden used for the famous emails and all that. Anyway, the government came after LavaBit because of Edward Snowden, and they said, Ladar, you're going to need to turn over those keys so we can get access to LavaBit. And he just kind of wrote the key really small where they couldn't read it, and so it took them too long to figure out how to backdoor LavaBit. I'm probably screwing this all up. But
yeah, I mean, I was going to say that's quite the abbreviated, version coupled with 8 or 9 years of forgetfulness.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But anyway, they couldn't get into it. He was able to warn his customers and shut it down, just like Howard Rourke burning down the Wainwright building, and they weren't able to pilfer people's private information. So Ladar will be attending Anarchapulco this year and has a great workshop that you should definitely look into, but it is very limited space. You're going to want to look into it quickly. And he has a very interesting talk. So Ladar, let's go ahead and jump into your talk, unless you want to fix my abbreviation at all.
No, I think if we start talking about what happened in the summer of Snowden, that's going to be an hour-long discussion. We'll never get to the talk.
Right.
But, I've moved on. Hopefully the rest of the world has too. And, I'm focused now on, advocacy and how we can solve these problems at a fundamental level so that the things that I had to face never actually come to play again. Danny, I lost your audio. I see your lips moving, but.
Oh yeah, I was. Somebody had their hand up my ass, and no, I'm just kidding. Ventriloquist joke. Anyway, I was going to say you want to.
That's between you and the hand, not something that needs to be shared across the internet.
Okay. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about your talk, and then we'll get into the class.
Sure. So, one of the things that I've been kicking around for a long time is this idea that, our perception of cryptography, particularly under the law, has really begun to evolve. And I've spent a lot of time really thinking about how, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution protects and applies to how we use and interpret the usage of cryptography today. So, what I'm using the 30 minutes that you've given me in Acapulco is to really throw out the idea that, the Second Amendment has evolved to the point where it protects our right to possess and use cryptography to protect ourselves. And I'm really going to be laying out my opinion on sort of how the perception of cryptography has evolved. You have to remember that, as late as the 1990s, cryptography was illegal. It was considered a munition under the law. And, the use of it and the perception of it in the United States has really changed over the last 20 years. Well, as everybody knows who reads the news, it's really come under threat the last few years by sort of a growing cabal of law enforcement and security services that have been advocating as quietly as they can for laws to be passed that would effectively backdoor all of the major cryptographic forms of communication that we depend on today. And, you know, what I really want to get into is if that does come to play, you know, we may lose the battle in Congress, but we can move on to the courts and assert our access to cryptography as being protected under the Second Amendment.
I really like how you're going after the Second Amendment to protect cryptography. And then if we look at like Cody Wilson, he's using the First Amendment to protect the Second Amendment with, you know, the gun files at Defense Distributed.
Sure. You know, it's great, but I talked about how, you know, cryptography was considered a munition in the 1990s. Well, we had this fella, Phil Zimmerman, who published his software for creating cryptographic messages. And, you know, there was a point in time where people thought he was going to be arrested for releasing that software into the wild. And what people wanted to assert at that point was this software is an expression of, it's an expression of our creativity, and it's protected by the First Amendment's guarantee to free expression. And to illustrate that point, they actually took the source code for PGP and they printed it on t-shirts. And they would wander around with t-shirts showing this illegal source code. So, you know, I mean, I'm really of the opinion that there are about 7 or 8 different constitutional amendments that affect cryptography in different ways. But when it comes to our access to and a guaranteed right to continue to use secure cryptography, I think the Second Amendment may be our best bet.
That's a great idea. You know, we don't have a lot of time. I'm trying to keep these talks pretty short, but I did want to get into your class a little bit. And, you know, things are kind of just really getting out of hand with, you know, censorship and everything else. And now they're talking about backdoors into Google for your apps, and where they can just turn your apps on and off. And you're providing kind of a tool that can help people at least mitigate that a little bit. Tell me about, like, what's the name of the class and what are you going to be teaching?
Well, the name of the class is Free Your Droid. And really what it relates to in terms of what you're talking about is the fact that, you know, we all carry smartphones, whether it's, you know, in tablets, whether it's iOS or Android. And unfortunately, the market has evolved such that, you know, we may own the device, but we're just passengers in terms of their usage. We don't control them. They do a number of things without our consent. So really what this workshop is about getting into is, you know, if you hearken back to the old days with computers, the first thing you would do when you got a new computer is you would wipe it and put a clean install of whatever operating system it was that you liked without any of the manufacturer bloatware. Well, that's effectively what I want to show people how to do. Is we're going to be providing people as part of the fee for the class with an Android tablet, and I'm going to be showing them how to exploit the bootloader, forcibly unlock it, that is without the manufacturer's permission, and then replace the operating system on that tablet with a version of Android that is effectively clean. You know, we'll get into a discussion about whether or not to include Google Play services or not, and that'll be up to the individual student whether they want to do that or not. But at least after this workshop, they'll have the skills they need to create a device that is effectively, at least in the beginning, when it starts out, spyware free.
Okay, now the devices that you're going to be using, they're all going to be exactly the same device, just because it's
Well,
going to be.
we have two device models, but they're effectively, from a spec standpoint, they've got the same CPU and the same GPU and the same screen size.
Right. Well,
But
so with this knowledge, once they're done, could they apply it to other devices, or would they only be stuck with the knowledge for working with this one device?
so the exact steps, software, and tooling that we use will be specific to this device, but the generalized knowledge and skills will give them a big head start if they want to locate and repeat this process with a different device.
Awesome. And the device will be provided. So that's why this is limited, because you're bringing how many, 12 or?
Yeah, we're bringing 12 of the devices. So that's how many spots we have.
Okay. So if somebody were able to get their hands on a device, and what device would they look for, and specifically just in case we were able to expand the class to more than the 12 people?
Well, that's a complicated, yeah, I'd rather not go into that, because, if we start naming manufacturers and specific devices, we could get in trouble.
Okay.
Under the DMCA. But, if that does come to play, we'll provide an option for people to, we'll figure something out. But the trick, the reason we're providing the device is because
could potentially two people work on one device and learn the steps?
Well, I was just thinking that, one of the options we may set up if we run out of spots is creating slots for people to just observe, where they don't actually get the device, they don't actually go through the process, but they can observe the class, so to speak. We may create another option where we raise the price a bunch, but then we're able to go out to Best Buy and pick up devices before we fly down. The big problem and the reason that we're providing the devices is because we're going to be set up to walk students through the process for this specific device. And if people start bringing random devices, even if they happen to be on the list of compatible devices, I may not have the software or tools set up to actually unlock and reload that particular device. Let alone, have it be a device that I've actually done in the past and am familiar with.
And the class is going to be 4 hours long, and there's a lot of talks, and we have one stage. We're trying to make it to where nobody misses it. So what we're actually going to be doing is having this on the 19th, which is the day after the conference, and we'll do it in the computer lab about a block away at the Marsh Children's Home. So I may be able to bring in some kids, some of the older kids, and let them watch as well. Maybe they can learn something, or at least get interested in it.
Yeah, well, it just means for folks who are interested in taking this workshop, make sure you fly out on Sunday and not Saturday.
Yes, definitely do that, or change your flight if you've already booked your flight and you're interested in this. It's limited space. I can't think of a better workshop. We've not really had anything like this at Anarchapulco before, so I'm looking forward to it, and I hope other people are as well. Come and listen to Ladar, and believe me, he is very approachable, and he will talk your ear off, and he will tell you anything you want to know about privacy, encryption, and everything else. So please reach out to him and just talk to him. He loves to talk to you. So come to Anarchapulco, meet Ladar, and learn a whole bunch of stuff. You got anything else in closing?
No, thank you, Danny.
All right. Thank you so much, Ladar.